Welcome to Speaking Highly with Jon Huck. I am your host, Jon Huck. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you can like and subscribe, that would be awesome. We are on YouTube. And if you can't watch on YouTube, we are on all the audio platforms. So it would be amazing if you could get in there and do that. With me, as always, Indy Fawcett. How are you, man?
Doing well, John. How you doing, man?
Good. Today's topic is sobriety, which I am fully aware is not necessarily a humorous topic, nor will every topic we talk about be humorous. But also, disclaimer, not a medical expert, not a doctor, not a rehab expert. I'm in no way an expert on any of those things, but I wanted to do a show that celebrated people who have gotten sober, have gotten their life together, have turned things around. And honestly, it's because people matter. You guys matter. Things matter. Yeah. If you don't think you matter, you're wrong. Like there's a guy I follow on Twitter, barely know the dude, barely know him. He makes me laugh every day. One of the things that he is very open about is he was basically at the edge of the abyss. You know, he was an alcoholic. He couldn't turn it around, and was able to eventually get help, figured out he needed help, got help, and now is still around today. Like, he's only alive today because he got sober. Like, he wouldn't have been able to continue living the way he drank. And now that enabled him to have a family. And for his family, that's great. And for him, that's great, his quality of life. But also, honestly, it improves my life. I laugh at the shit he writes online. And that doesn't mean like I'm going to go live with him or we're going to be, best friends. But like, if he's affecting me, he's affecting me in a positive way, then
that's great.
That's amazing, right? Yeah. I mean, and everybody does that, whether they know it or not. You can affect people that you have never met, that you don't. I mean, that's the beauty of the internet, is you can reach people you don't know and affect them in a positive way if you want. And
I think that's the ultimate doing your part, so to speak. It's often cliched, but yeah.
No, but I mean, look, if you're one of those people who don't think you can turn it around, or don't think you can live without it, there are programs, there are people you can talk to. There's all kinds of stuff, and again, you matter. So make that call, reach out, do what you have to do, because it's in the long run, you're going to look back and be glad that you did. Right. If that makes sense. And addiction, it's like a fucking cancer. You could be predisposed to it genetically, you could run in your family. It could be something that feels like it's passed down. Also, it can hit anybody or anyone at any time, regardless of economic status or regardless of race or anything. It's rich, poor, big, small.
It's just entrenched in human beings in general. Right. And then exacerbated by genetics.
As long, like first of all, addiction wasn't even considered a disease until 1956. I just read an article that said it's now believed that since humankind came down from the trees, they've been drinking alcohol in one form or another. So even cavemen figured out how to get drunk. Like, as long as we've had music, which is since man was able to tap on anything,
right.
We've had alcohol. So, which is kind of a newer discovery. It's now thought, the article was like, and happy hour started a lot earlier than we thought it did. Like, cute, but that's true. And so it's clearly was an issue for longer than until 1956. It was just 1956 they started to see it as something that needed attention. But before that, even, there were rehabs. There was an all-female rehab facility in Chicago that started in the late 1800s. So people knew about it. You know what I mean? People knew that it was ruining lives. And I don't mean to pick on alcohol. I mean, I just alcohol is kind of what was the seed for it all, but obviously people are addicted to drugs, they're addicted to gambling, they're addicted to sex. There's all kinds of things you can get rehabilitated for.
Right. I think back then, I don't think you needed a lot of science to tell you that doing these things wasn't the healthiest thing for you.
Yeah. I'm bleeding out of my eyes. Maybe I shouldn't do this anymore. But that doesn't stop some people. That's the crazy thing is like there are a couple schools of the idea of sobriety, and the one would be that, you know, you're in your pure form, whatever, nothing inside you. Now that one, I can't, because are we talking vitamins? Are we talking?
There's its place. Right.
It's got its place, but it's a little, it seems a little much for me. Right. Whereas my idea of sobriety, I know I just burped like I'm drunk. I'm not. My idea of sobriety. My idea of sobriety would
easy
be
for you to say.
would be life balance. You know, if something, if like I was drinking too much, it was pulling my focus off everything else. So when I cut back on drinking, I was able to focus and even everything out, and then give everything its, you know,
right. It kind of comes down to control, right? You want to be able to control any situation at any moment.
Moderation is key, and that, unfortunately, I'm lucky. I feel very lucky that moderation works for me. It doesn't work for a lot of people, and it didn't work for our guest today, Amy Dresner.
Incredible guest.
Podcast host. Ex-comedian, recovering addict, author of the fantastic recovery memoir, My Fair Junkie. Came out in, I almost said 1917. Came out in 2017, and has been slowly selling, but also, as she tells us, helping people legitimately. And she, like I said, this isn't a contest. No addiction is, you know, everyone's different.
Lives.
It's people's lives. Yeah. Amy has a very extreme case, you know what I mean, of being off balance in terms of her life. And, you know, we talked to her about why and how, and again, she was a rich kid from Beverly Hills, you know, essentially. So it wasn't like she was poor, living in the streets and couldn't figure it out, you know. Right. But like, her story is intense, and it, like, I don't want people to think, well, I'm not that, I don't have that. Like, if it's something's pulling your focus, if you're not able to balance things out, it might behoove you to get some help, you know? Yeah. And also, she puts everything in her book. Like, she put everything out there in order to help people. You know what I mean? Right. And I think that's in one case we kind of talk about. Yes, there's a lot of things she did that were awful and terrible, and she feels bad about. But also, those things put her here with this book now and helping who knows how many hundreds of, maybe thousands of people. So
the past is in the past. You can't change it. What can you do with what you got in front of you?
Yes. And how can you move forward and be the best person you can be and bring other people up with you? You know what I mean? Right. Help people out as you go. So it's a great discussion. She's a fantastic human being. And again, also another person I'm very happy is still around. Definitely. Yeah. So enjoy Amy Dresner, everybody.
Are you sober now?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, not really. I mean, I guess
I heard like rumors that you got sober or something.
Well,
maybe you told me.
I guess what doing like research for this show or whatever. First of all, guest today, Amy Dresner, writer, author, blogger, ex-comic. I don't know, still comic.
I know. No one likes recovering comic.
Recovering comedian. And author of the book My Fair Junkie, which I just read, by the way.
Oh, cool.
And I loved it. Thank
you. Oh, thank you.
I mean, it was heartbreaking at times and like really sad, and then, but in the sense that, you know, at the end of it, you seem to come out on top.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm still sober, but everything's changed. I'm working on book 2 now.
You are.
That happy ending, that guy's gone.
Well, that's because those endings are like...
Yeah. I know I'm beginning to think that the happy ending of your first memoir is like the sad beginning of your second memoir.
I mean, it could be. I don't know.
Right?
It doesn't necessarily always have to be sad, but I feel like there's like these... Like if you watch, this is such a weird example,
they want you to have it like end on a happy note. That's like the publisher. They want a narrative arc and they want hope, especially with a story like mine that was so fucking gnarly.
Right.
But a lot of really, really intense shit happened since that's been published. And so now I'm working on book 2.
When did the first one come out? It was a couple of years.
2017, but I was 3
Okay.
years sober, and now I'm 8 years sober.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
No, yeah, it really is, because a lot of gnarly shit happened, and we're going to talk about
In
we'll talk
between
about it.
book one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, that's the book that I'm writing, where everyone writes these sober, like, addiction memoirs, and it's like, and I got sober, and like my life was perfect, and it was like rainbows and unicorns. It's like, like, after the book got published, everything fucking blew up in my face. Like, both my parents got ill. That guy dumped me. Like, it was really, really intense. A lot of shit happened. Major financial problems. Everyone thinks you're rich because you publish a book, which is so not true.
That's like people in the Midwest thinking you're rich because you do comedy and you were on TV once.
Exactly,
it's like, dude.
You're like, no. Yeah.
Not how it works.
Yeah. A lot of, I mean, what, and then there's all of the developmental delay wherein, like, now I'm sober and I don't know, there's all this shit that I should have learned in my 20s, but I was too busy smoking meth and shooting coke and whatever. And now I'm fucking 51 and I can't cook and I don't know how to do my taxes and I don't know how to change the oil in my car. And I'm this weird child.
That's that's kind of like almost like when if you go into prison. If you're in prison for a really long time, you come out like there are people that went in before the internet who are coming out now that are like, how do I maneuver in this world?
Yeah, exactly. So you're shot out of this sort of like bubble where everyone's been taking care of you, or you've been in treatment, or you've been in, or you've been coddled by a rich ex-husband or your parents, and now all of a sudden you're by yourself, and everyone's like, oh my God, you're so inspirational. Like, and you're like, cool, I'm eating cold beans out of a fucking can right now, sitting on like a shitty stool.
Because I don't know how to get furniture, and I don't know how to cook, and I don't know how to be nutritious.
I don't know how to do anything. And it's like, and it's like also where the work starts. Like, the drugs and the alcohol were the solution. They weren't the problem. Like, you pull that away and it's like, oh, here's all my mental illness and here's all my childhood trauma and here. So then all of a sudden you start really doing the work, and it's not fun at all.
No, but that's really telling and very factual. Is like, people are like, oh, well, this person is addicted to alcohol, they're addicted to drugs. It's like, if they could just get off those things, it's like you said, those things are the solution to the things that are driving them crazy. So it's like,
that's what's making them kind of like chill out that's what's making them like dull down the pain and turn down the volume on stuff. And it's like, when I took that away, I found other stuff. You find food, you find gambling, you find sex, you find love, you find shopping, it's just filling in the hole. Yeah, I mean,
and until you work on that hole.
Yeah, I mean, but also that stuff never. I mean, that for me anyway, and I can't speak for other people, but I will always have that sort of addict brain that's like obsessive and ruminating and kind of like, it's never enough. And a lot of that's biology. I found out. I did some, I got into the science of it, and it's low dopamine tone. A lot of it is biology. So
just your genetic makeup being you don't get in as much dopamine as somebody else.
Supplement. I actually tested for a genetic mutation called MTHFR, which a lot of addicts and alcoholics have, where you can't get folic acid. There's a fuck up in the enzyme where you take folic acid from like green vegetables and it makes it into L-methylfolate, which is the building block of dopamine and serotonin. So you're already fucked. You're already at a low dopamine tone. And so you're like, your brain is like, we need dopamine. But the stuff you pick just shoots you fucking so high up. Like, I didn't pick like, oh, like I'm gonna, feed the homeless. I was like, let's shoot.
I'm gonna have a green tea. No.
Yeah. And it's like, so it creates huge rush and then a huge crash. And then if you do that enough, then your brain goes, wow, there's too much dopamine. And then dopamine receptors close down and stuff like that, because it's trying to is that a permanent thing? That can't be a permanent thing, right? No. But I mean, the genetic mutation is permanent. So now I take an L-methylfolate supplement, but it doesn't fix everything.
Right.
I'm still obsessive as shit, and like, I still have my depression. Which I
Yeah.
think is every, a writer, comic,
Well, it is and it isn't.
Jew, every Jew.
I think it's different for everybody. I think, like, when you ask me if I got sober, like, not by the Webster's definition of sobriety, but I quit drinking the way I quit drinking for a year, and then I just quit drinking the way I used to drink. Because of that
Great.
year, I now, if
That's
I have a
great.
cocktail, I like am so tired I have to go to sleep. So, and it takes me like,
That's amazing.
took me a hockey game and a half to finish one beer the other day.
Oh my,
So
how? Teach me.
but that's the thing
In
is,
rehabs, it's 25 years I've tried to do that. Teach me
and
how to
that's
do it.
I'm very fortunate. I have a
Yeah,
friend
not
who,
many people can do that. I mean, some people can, and I'm totally open to that. I'm not like, hey, like I'm not at all.
so I was going to ask you is if are there programs that you like, because AA is so like that.
It's pretty fundamentalist and gnarly.
I did not care for it when it was
Did you
presented
not
to
care
me,
for it? Yeah, I'm not surprised.
because
It's
it was too much.
yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's very. I mean, I take what I need from it and I throw away the rest.
That's what we should be doing with like the Bible. Like every all religion
Right.
is like there's little bits and
some really cool
pieces.
things
Yes,
in AA,
yeah.
like meditation. That's cool. You know what I mean? Like looking at your part and stuff. Like that's cool. I mean, there's stuff that's from sort of spiritual and psychological philosophies that are really smart. That that's not. He didn't make that shit up. You know what I mean?
Right.
Being
That's
of
like
service. Being of
ancient.
service. Yeah, being of service, super fucking good. You get a helper's high. Always really important to be of service. The happiest people are people who are in a community, connected, who are of service to each other. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
a lot of that makes sense. And so, but like in terms of like the anonymity or like all the God stuff, like I'm a Jew, so like I'm not gonna do like the Lord's Prayer and shit like that. Like,
Right.
I'm like, it's cognitive behavioral therapy. That's really what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and the stuff you just were talking about, the meditation, like I found all that through other avenues. Do you know what I mean? Just
Exactly.
through like,
You created your own program, which is a lot of people are doing that, and there seems to be an alternative. And I run a group for Laura McCowan called the Luckiest Club, and it's just a sobriety support, and it's very, very non-denominational. It's not AA at
yeah.
all.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of like, and now having a podcast with Joe Schrank.
Yeah. It's called Rehab Confidential,
Yeah,
right? Yes.
and we harm reduction, and there's people on there that used to shoot heroin and now can drink. Like, cool, you know what I mean? Like, fucking, we talk about all kinds of stuff. So I'm like open, like whatever works for you is awesome.
That's
Like I can't touch a goddamn thing. I quit. I had to quit vaping during the pandemic because I was doing 4 fucking Juul pods a day.
That's disgusting, though. That's gnarly.
So many cigarettes. I mean, like that's the kind of
You're better off smoking cigarettes at that point.
Totally. Quitting vaping is a way worse kick than quitting smoking.
Ugh. Oh yeah, that's real.
So I can't do really anything in moderation. I'm sort of a nightmare. Like this weird vacuum opens up inside of me. Like one date with someone, I meet someone and I'm like, we're getting married, and it's like, oh God, like I just like. I mean, I'm very, very, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm working on it all. So yeah, it's, I had to just take away all of it.
Yeah. I have a friend, a really good friend of mine who I moved out to LA with. Like he quit, he's been trying to quit smoking cigarettes. It's so hard. He can't have like when I stopped smoking cigarettes, every once in a while I would have one and I'd be like, I still don't want to have any more cigarettes. And then he's like, he would just get mad. He's like, I don't know how you're doing that. Like it's frustrating for people like that.
Well, my co-host who is sober and like abstinent, we'll say, whatever, like completely in AA, he can smoke 1 cigarette every night before he goes to sleep. What? If I'm smoking 1 cigarette, I'm smoking a pack.
Yeah.
Every day of Marlboro Blacks, like having nicotine poisoning, and like it's just like so it's just easier to not do it than to try to manage and control my use. That to me is much more uncomfortable
than
to just not do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And
so,
plus, well, I'm sure you heard. I mean, the reason I stopped comedy was because I tried to stab my ex while I was high on OxyContin and Four Loko.
I didn't hear. But that's not the same fight that took place at the beginning of My Fair Junkie.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Then yes, I heard about that fight.
Yes.
Now that was my question or in my thinking is when I was reading that book, I was like, well, I remember the last time I saw you, like before the book, because I saw you after the book at like Tammy Joe's shows and a couple other places here and there. But before the book, it was like a weird AA room that we were doing comedy in that you were running. You're like, yeah, I do shows here. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And we did a show somewhere. And then I was like, when I'm reading the book, I'm like, that was like the same time, I think. Like, I feel like the timeline would be.
I don't think I did the AA room high on Oxy. I did do like two. I did do like two sets high on Oxy, and it was so bad because you can't read the room. Like, you're just like completely like what you think is funny. You're just not tuned in at all. Like, I did one at what's the place in Burbank? Fucking.
Oh, Flappers?
Yeah, I did one at Flappers, and it was like people were like, "Whoa!" And I think I did one at Akbar, and like people were like, "What's going?" Like, you're fucking on something.
Wow.
And I was like,
Yeah.
Okay. And then by that point, I just was like, yeah. Then I was just in the bottle, and so it was like, yeah. But I mean, AA crowds are the best crowds to do comedy because they are not fazed by fucking anything.
I
mean, they think the darkest shit is funny, and it's like they're the best.
Do you know Mick Betancourt?
Of course.
Yeah. So Mick used to run that Radford Hall or whatever it was called, was a big AA room, and
I did it.
Yeah, he books me, and I'm like, this was long before I ever even considered not drinking or whatever, and I was like, I got there and I was like, hey dude, all my jokes are about like kind of like degenerate shit like drugs and he goes, yeah, that's why I booked you, go. And oh, dude, they anything I had done, anything I was like mocking myself for, they were like, are you kidding, dude?
Yeah, honey,
I got that beat.
That.
Yeah, it was like I was Richard Dreyfuss in a room full of quints, and it was just like, I was like, look at my scar. I was like, dude, everyone I know was eaten alive by tiger sharks. It was like, oh Jesus, fuck.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. Those crowds are the best because they're not going to judge you.
Everything's hilarious. Gallows humor, anything goes.
They've seen it all. They've done it all. They've been lower than you. You said doing like comedy high on Oxy wasn't good. I don't think doing comedy super high on anything is good. Do you know what I mean? Like I used to think like, oh, I need like 4 beers because this is me loose at a party and that's me on stage. And then it's like, when I cut that out, it was an immediate like, oh, wow, I can remember all my jokes. I know what I want to do and say and how I want to behave. I'm not falling off the stage. It was an immediate improvement. It was just an immediate improvement.
Well, yeah, I mean, like what it feels like and what it looks like are not the same thing. That's the big thing. And it's like, I definitely...
You mean the high?
Most of the time I did... Huh?
You mean the high is like what it looks like? Yeah.
High, all of it.
Yeah.
People are like, oh my God, I'm so funny when I'm drinking. You're like, no, you're completely annoying.
Yeah, you suck. Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, most of the stand-up I did was sober. When I relapsed and got arrested, I mean, it was like 3 months, I think, on Oxy before like I got arrested for trying to stab him, and then like everything fucking just fell apart. Like,
that was the beginning. I mean, that's where the book starts. It starts unraveling from there.
So the book starts there, and it's like I lose everything. I just lost everything. I had a complete nervous breakdown and blah blah. And it's like, everyone's like, oh my God, but it's such great material. It's like, well, I wasn't really worried about doing a tight 10 at the store. I was trying to go to prison.
Look, I'm going to audition for Conan tonight, and look, tomorrow is my court date, but tonight I got to get that tight 5 ready.
When I'm going through a divorce, having a nervous breakdown, like going through a criminal trial, I wasn't like, let's write this down. It's hilarious. Like, it took a while to be funny.
Sure, because you have to back up from it a little bit. You can't be like right here and go,
right. You know that tragedy plus time equals comedy, but at the time it's not always that. Certainly that was not funny at all. Like, I lost everything.
The book starts here, but clearly it's not like you just woke up and like, now I'm going to start doing Oxy and now I'm going to have a problem this afternoon. It was like, this is obviously,
Well, then that's the whole thing is like, addiction and especially relapse is very redundant. It's boring, and they want a narrative arc. I'm like, well, how do I create a fucking narrative arc of 20 years of fucking drug addiction and relapse? Like, she got sober and then she relapsed. She got sober and then she relapsed and then she got it's like Groundhog's Day. So I was like, okay, that's why I did the chain gang as the spine, and then I would use that as like a way to do a flashback to, so you were like, fuck, she's been fucked up since her 20s.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
here's her in San Francisco doing fucking crystal meth, totally out of her fucking mind. And so it's like, yeah, so it was like, it was really hard to create a narrative arc out of something that was so like this,
Yeah. It probably felt this like similar to you every time, you know what I mean? And if you were to write it down, it would kind of, like you said, read the same, like got sober, fell off the wagon, got sober, fell, and there's, and I think a more an interesting is like, what were the triggering things that particular time, you know what I mean? Like why'd you fall off the wagon?
It was different every time.
Of course. Yeah. Which I think is like, because in your head, you're looking for a reason. It's like,
totally.
It was like,
absolutely.
I would drink when I was happy because we're celebrating, and I would drink when I was sad because we're not celebrating, and it's like, okay, so when is there,
I was so out of control when I drank that I really tried not to drink because I would be so violent and sexual, and I was like, and I'd black out so much. So it was like, I learned really early. I was like, okay, this is like not working at all. So drugs for me allowed me to at least sort of be coherent enough to kind of be, which just sounds strange, but alcohol fucked me up much more than drugs ever did. And so, although, drugs have much more of like a stigma around them and whatever, especially when you get into IV drug use, which I did eventually. I think the main thing is, and what I wanted to give people was hope. I wanted to be like, you can fuck up for 20 years and still fucking get it. You know what I mean? And still get your life together. You can lose fucking everything and fucking turn it around. Don't give up. And it's like, and I also wanted to be like, if you don't think that this can happen to you, you're totally wrong. Like, I was at Beverly Hills Jack.
I was going to say, you weren't like, you didn't come from a dilapidated shanty house on the side of some river in the Appalachian Mountains. That's like,
right. People think, like addiction is those people. And it's like, no, bitch, it's everybody.
I say addiction is like cancer in the sense that, yes, your genetic makeup could lend itself. You could be predisposed, but like also this dude who has no history of it at all in his family could be a full-blown addict in
Genetics
months.
Genetics is only 50% of it,
Yeah,
and it's like, so I coming from like Beverly Hills and an all-girls private school and graduating magna cum laude and like really looking like I had my shit together and being like really a purist and never having drank till I was 19. I didn't look like someone who this was going to be their issue. You know what I mean?
So
I really wanted to open that up for people and be like, oh my God, she was like a perpetrator of domestic violence. She lost everything. She lost her mind. She was a sex addict. She was an IV drug addict. It's like, she ended up in the psych ward. She was in jail. Like, and it's like, because what happened for me was I got really humbled by all of it. I was like, oh shit, we're all the same. This can happen to you too in the right or wrong circumstances. I think for me, the big reason that I didn't, it was obvious to me I was a drug addict from like the very early stages of my drug addiction.
So you knew, you were like, this is not something I can stop on my own.
I knew at 24 when I was doing crystal meth, I was like, I am a drug addict. And I was like, and I'm cool with that because like, I need this shit to be okay on the planet. So whatever, I was like totally fine with it. And, I just didn't want to take care of myself. I just really, really didn't feel like I could take care of myself. I felt I didn't understand how the world worked. I was like, I just felt like everyone, you know, and people say this all the time, like everyone had the manual and I didn't understand the manual. I didn't like myself. I didn't feel comfortable in my skin. I was very depressive. I just was like, how's everyone doing it? I don't understand how people are doing it.
Barely. They're barely getting by.
Well, also, I figured out later, everyone's faking it. Everyone's figuring it out as they go along.
You know holding on by a thread. Like,
yeah,
oh,
totally.
God, please don't fucking pull all the way out. Like, yeah.
Totally. So it was like, I mean, I think a big part was not wanting to grow up. It was like, you know, I was being, you know, as long as I stayed broken, people took care of me. People threw money at my parents, threw money at it. My ex-husband took care. Everyone took care of me. And I was like, cool. Like, I'll just stand up at night and like, whatever, like during the day, write jokes, dick jokes. And like it was like, you know, and I didn't have to grow up. And I really think that you sort of meet your destiny on the road you go to avoid it. The universe was like, really? You don't want to take care of yourself? Huh? Really? Okay. And just fucking pulled it all.
I like that
like,
though.
Here you go, bitch. Knock yourself out.
The road
You're 42 in sober living on Medi-Cal with nothing. And you have a fucking criminal record. Let's see what you do.
Like you said, though, humbling. I mean,
it changed my life, and I've been sober since. Yeah.
I really like the all the stuff with the I don't want to call it a chain gang. That's what you called it, but it's like like
community labor.
It's just like city
labor, the Hollywood beautification team.
Hollywood beautification team. Yes, yeah. But I think that, like, you know, like you said, that was probably the first time you'd ever had to do anything like that.
You think?
I'm guessing you never had a job.
That's the irony. That's the fucking. I mean, the universe has the best sense of humor. The universe is like, oh, really, bitch? Like, you know, I mean, like that was the fucking joke. Is like I was the only girl. I was the only white person.
Yeah.
I've never been arrested ever for anything ever before. Okay. And I showed up and I was like, oh my God, like these people are criminals. Like, what am I doing here? It's like 40 Hispanic dudes in like black hoodies. And I'm like terrified. And I'm like, fuck. You know, it's like, hi. And no one says, you know, and then someone came up to me. Yeah, no one is like, everyone's like, whatever, dude. And then someone comes up to me and they're like, what you here for? Huh? What you here for, Weta? I'm here for a DUI. What you here for? And I was like, I'm here for felony domestic violence with a deadly weapon. They were like, oh shit. You know, so all of a sudden I became the crazy white bitch and nobody fucked with me. I had more time than anyone else. I was one of the only people there for assault. I was like, you're the criminal asshole. It was such a mind fuck and such a flipping of everything. And it was, I mean, I can't describe the biggest epiphany I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, I mean,
but also that moment where it was just like, I mean, it's funny, but it was like, you know, the big thing, you know, literally like no one talked to us. We were criminals.
And everyone knew that. You had vests, so you could see it. It's like
on the back. Yeah. Yeah. People were like, they knew exactly because this was a route that we did and that all of us did. So everyone knew who we were, except for like drunk homeless guys. So we're like, I know it sucks. Put a piece of pen, stay with it, you know, like everyone else was like, ew, except for like dumb, like some bitches were like, oh my God, I love the environmentalism you guys are doing.
You had people like,
how do I become part of this?
Yeah, I don't have a clipboard. I don't need you to sign anything. Just move it along.
Or I was just like, funny. It's so easy to become part of this, really. You know?
Here's a knife. Do something with this knife.
Yeah, just do something.
You'll see.
Yeah, the knife is what fucks you. The knife is what fucks you. That's considered like, that ups the whole stake. You use a weapon and you're fucked.
Yeah, it's not just you weren't just hitting someone. You were threatening them.
I didn't even, but dude, I threatened him. I didn't even stab him. I was like, I threatened him with a knife. I was high as a motherfucker.
Which is also why that's bad. Do you understand? Like, if you had threatened him with a knife and not been high as a motherfucker, I'd been like, hey, can we talk about this? But when you're like out of your mind, people are like, no, we can't talk about this. She's got a knife. Like, there's a problem.
Well, I haven't done it since. So I hope that I don't think that's who I am. I don't think I'm a violent person. I don't think I mean, that's why I don't do drugs and drink, because I'm an asshole. I'm a fucking dick.
When you do that.
Yeah, when I'm on drugs and I drink, I'm a fucking different person, and it's a scary person.
And it's one that you don't like. And in the end,
No,
that's
oh God,
what
no.
has
And,
to
I mean,
happen.
I really let myself be an asshole in that book. Like people are like, she seems like an asshole. It's like, well, I was really mentally ill and on drugs. Like, well, if you don't show, like, if you're trying to look good in an addiction memoir, you're not being honest enough. I don't know what to say.
No one wants
like,
to read that anyway. Like, oh,
you know
everything was
Like,
easy.
I'm supposed to, like, yeah. Why would I get sober if I was fucking had my shit together? Like, I was a dick.
Yeah. I mean,
you know, people are like, that stuff in the psych ward, like, that's not funny. It's like, that's who I was. And my dad, who's a writer, was like, be an asshole, just be an interesting asshole. And also, if you're not really a dick, where is there to go? I mean, we want to see you change.
You have to grow. You have to grow. Are you talking about in the sense of the book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like, I mean, I knew I would look like an asshole. I had an editor who was like, a little harsh. Like, maybe we want to, and I was like, absolutely not. I was like, nope, that's who I was.
Yeah.
And I want to be honest about it. And it helped a lot of people. People were just like, God, thank you for being fucking real. Like, thank you. I identified and I felt like, oh my God, you're the first, like, thank you. Like, you gave me hope and you were real and you made me laugh at things that I like felt ashamed about. And I was like, I mean, it was hard to put myself out there like that, especially the sex addiction stuff. Like, whoa.
Yeah. I mean, you really, it's brutally honest, or at least it feels that way. And
it is brutally honest.
And
it was hard.
And you're right.
And I haven't had a date since. I've saved souls, but no one wants a date. I just know. My vagina's hermetically sealing and falling off as we speak. It's been that long. I think
that'll pick up. It'll change. It'll change. So. Yeah.
I look pretty good for you. You haven't seen me like 10 years. This is pretty decent for a drug addict. Right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. The amount of abuse you put yourself through just in the book alone, not whatever came before that and whatever was excluded.
I look like an Apple doll. I know.
Yeah, I mean.
I sleep a lot and I'm greasy. I have like cystic acne, so that helps when you're really greasy.
Oh, okay. Because I look like already looking like a used catcher's mitt, and I'm.
Shut up! Oh, shut the fuck up! Used catcher's mitt.
I'm just saying. Why? What? How long have you been writing? Did you always write like as a kid?
Yes.
Was this you did? So that was nonstop.
As a kid, I was a writer. I've been writing since I was a little girl. My dad was a writer. I'm a daddy's girl. Writing's always been my escape and my thing. And I wrote in college for magazines and all that kind of stuff. And it was like, so, you know, and then I was writing for addiction magazines for a while, for 6 years or something like that. Before the book? Before I got the book deal. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you were writing for addiction magazines before you were sober?
No. Well,
no. After.
Yeah,
Okay.
After I got sober, I started writing for addiction magazines.
What?
But you have to understand, I was sober all during stand-up. So I was sober and then I relapsed.
Gotcha.
I was sober and I relapsed. So it's like.
So I only saw you when you were sober. I never saw you relapsed.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
I was sober for.
Did you do that when you relapsed? Did you specifically stay away from places that you knew people knew you? Meaning like.
I didn't even. After I did stand up twice and it was so fucking bad, I just didn't do stand up anymore. I mean, by that point, I was like all about being a drug addict. I just didn't care anymore. I was like. My friend had a hip replacement at 39, and I was like taking her Norcos, and I was taking my Oxy, and I was drinking Four Loko, which is like, do you even know what that is?
Yeah, it's banned in like some states, isn't it? It's like if you have two whole ones.
Banned. I'm not just saying it's not my fault, but I certainly didn't help it. It is 5 beers and 4 cups of coffee it's malt liquor in like one can that you could get at 7-Eleven. And it fucking gets you there.
What? I mean, the 5 beers I get, but when you throw in all the coffee.
That's like doing Coke, dude. That's like Coke and drinking.
But that's what I'm saying. It's a speedball in a can.
No shit, yeah.
What the fuck? No, that's
It's so funny because I actually did a reading down south near San Diego. And one of the women at the reading, it was a fundraiser for a sober living. The woman's son had created Four Loko.
You met the mom of
and
the
I was
creator
like,
of,
I was like, your son's a genius and also
and the devil.
a fucking monster.
Yeah,
I was
what?
like, that shit destroyed me.
Why? And why was she there? Was she there from being sauced
She's
up on
sober.
Four Loko?
She's sober. You know,
Okay.
her son created it. She goes, I used to have garages, that stuff. And I was like, you know, my eyes just kind of like hearts created. I mean, like, oh, that stuff was so brutal.
I think the closest I ever got to Four Loko would be Steel Reserve.
I don't even know what the fuck that is.
That's like a malt liquor that I didn't know it was malt liquor. They had these tall boy cans of it. I bought a 6-pack of it, and I had 6 of those things. And I remember I like put my friend through a glass table, and then like there was
malt liquor makes you fucking crazy.
oh man, the first time I drank.
I remember I walked to the 7-Eleven because it was right by my old condo where I was married. And I was like, in the morning, because you drink in the morning when you're really, at the very end, you're drinking in the morning because that's like a secret.
No one knows that you don't that you smell like vodka before noon.
Knows, right? Yeah, everyone can fucking smell it. It's like you're like loaded at fucking 9:30.
You're never as smooth as you think you are.
Yeah. Oh, never. I mean, I was like, this is awesome to be drunk in the morning. And so I went and I was like, I could walk there, and I was just like, malt liquor. I hear that really fucks you up.
And it's inexpensive.
Yeah, and it's cheap as shit. And I was like, I literally just looked for what had the highest alcohol content. And it was that. And I was like, here we go.
And yep, there we go. Off to rehab. Goodbye.
Off to the psych ward. Oh, God,
man.
right?
Jesus.
Listening to 9 Inch Nails and fucking just like fucking with a knife, just, you know.
Jesus. How do you, were you influenced at all, or did you read or look at or had you heard of like A Million Little Pieces or?
Of course.
So
that was like, I was obsessed with that. Except that book's not completely true.
So that's what I'm going to ask, because an ex-girlfriend of mine turned me onto that book and I loved it, right?
Oh, I love that book.
And I read it. I'm like, oh my God, what a great book. And then the Oprah thing comes out where it's like, he didn't fight cops. And it was like, it was such
My book is, well, that, you know, that really fucked stuff up for addiction memoirs, because then all of a sudden we really had to prove everything that was real. And
you're saying his book did that going forward for books like yours.
After that, everyone, before that, people kind of believed it. And after that, everyone was like, really? You know? And it was like, so what I'd heard was, first of all, no one gets a fucking root canal without Novocaine. I'm sorry. Like, that's just not possible. That's just not, no. And it's like, yeah, I mean, so, you know, I absolutely, everything that happened to me is true, and I'm not proud of any of it. I refuse to be ashamed of it because it's helped a lot of people. But like, you know, it's different to be a dude and go through that than to be a chick who like fucked randos on Tinder and shot coke in her neck and had seizures and wore a helmet fucking, you know, and like, you know, tried to kill her ex and like, you know what I mean? That's like, people are like, ooh, you know, but what I'd heard about it is that he wanted to do it as a novel, and all the rest of his stuff is novels. And the publisher said, no one will buy this as a novel. They will only buy it as a memoir. So you have to say it's a memoir. And so he goes, okay. And so they said it was a memoir. And then fucking people can dig up, all that shit's true.
That's the thing now, though, is we all have access to the internet, and even if you want to pay a little bit of money, I could find out where anybody lives. You know what I mean? Like,
why would I fucking make that up? Like, who wants to have done that?
Well,
you know?
Of course, unless there was like this guy shot to like. He got real famous from that book. I mean, that really like, and I read the next book too, because I
like the next book.
Yeah. And it was about the guy that he met in rehab or whatever. So I don't know.
But yeah, I loved all those books. I mean, you know, when you're a drug addict and you're a writer, your idols are drug addict writers.
That's did you like Bukowski?
I loved
did
fucking
you like
William Burroughs Jr. And
I was going to ask you that. I read Speed a long time ago.
Oh God, so good. I was on Speed when I read Speed. I was good.
That was one of the. I was going to ask if you'd ever been compared to him, because
Kentucky Ham and Speed, amazing.
Yes,
totally unknown. Amazing.
And he's William Burroughs' kid. Like, it's
so fucking the dopest.
The son of the wife that William Burroughs Sr. shot and killed in Mexico. Like, it's just. Crazy life. Died at 33 from cirrhosis, basically.
Ooh.
Yeah,
If we don't get sober, we fucking take a cab pretty quickly.
That's the thing is like, and
there's like no old tweakers. Like, think about it. There's just like, you just don't.
I mean, you get like every once in a while, there's like the Keith Richards thing where.
Yeah, but he is not,
an old person is pickled and like.
Blood fucking changed out or something.
Exactly. He's doing things we can't afford.
Yeah, but also he's pretty fucking, I mean, like, okay, I was not functional, let alone in one of the biggest rock bands in the world, fucking touring. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Like, I'm sure you've got people holding you together, but Keith Richards is a freak of nature.
Yeah. He is a freak of nature. That's true.
Yeah. I mean, like, everyone else got sober.
Well, I wanted to get back to this because I was looking up, like, I hate doing the definitions of things, you know, like, oh, this is defined this way in a book or whatever. But sobriety is such it's so interesting because there's like there's like the hard, fast, like nothing, you know, the exact state you came into the world. Abstinence, right? Nothing. And then there's like sobriety for me is life balance. Do you know what I mean? Right. It's like a matter of like,
that's what I'm trying to get the recovery community into, which is, hey man, you know, like Mishka Shubaly, who's a writer, he doesn't drink, but he'll do shrooms and psychedelics and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And it's like, cool. Like sobriety, if you look in the dictionary, is really not drinking. In AA, sobriety, I mean, they can say you're not sober because you're on fucking psych meds. And I'm like, suck my dick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or I'm not sober because I'm on like controlled substances for my epilepsy that I gave myself. I gave myself full-blown fucking seizure disorder.
Because of drugs. Wow.
But I have all my teeth. And that's all that really matters in LA, right?
I wanted to ask you if your teeth were real.
Yes, my teeth are real.
They look.
I've lost a couple in the back from having seizures.
But they look. You have really great teeth.
No, they're not that great. They're a little bit yellow.
No, but everyone's are a little bit yellow.
Those are my real teeth. Well, I grew up rich. I had fucking braces and shit. You know what I mean? And retainers and shit. And now I wear a bite plate at night so that I don't grind.
Yeah, I do that
it's so
too.
Hot. And I wear like a night guard to protect my eyelash extensions. Are you turned on yet? And I snore really bad because I did so many drugs.
Wait, what do you wear to protect your eyelashes?
It's great when you're with someone and you're like, have your fucking thing on.
Let me put on my Daft Punk helmet. Let me just
like a boner in your back. Yeah. And you're like, fucking pull up your mask and you're like,
is that you?
Yeah. Oh, do you want to fuck? I'm sorry. Like in this drooly routine, like, hold on.
No, sorry, that was a mistake, boner. Just go back to sleep with the mouth guard in.
You're like, oh wait, hold on, honey. Oh, I didn't.
I just imagine like a
whatever.
pulling something off of your head.
Fuck it. I don't give a fuck.
Well, no, but that's at this point.
I'm 51 years old. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't give a shit.
The beauty of aging is that at a certain point we can stop giving a fuck what anyone thinks of us because I'm gonna put my fucking bite thing into, and I'm gonna, you know what I mean? Like,
at least I don't have like one of those like Darth Vader,
sleep apnea machines.
Yeah, I haven't gotten there yet. Yeah.
Can that be brought on by drug use?
But no. I certainly snore a lot. I've heard. My neighbors can hear me upstairs. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Yeah.
Chainsaw. What? I guess you did talk about, you were kind of in and out of different programs, right? It wasn't just AA, or it wasn't just like you would.
Well, I never wanted to be in AA. Who wants to be in AA? I was introduced to AA, my first rehab at 25, and I was like, this is creepy as fuck. You know, and I'm also Jewish. So I was like, I'm not doing that fucking prayer and like, whatever. And when I got sober, when I first got clean, you know, back in the 90s, there wasn't Crystal Meth Anonymous or anything like that. There was only AA and Narcotics Anonymous. That was it. And Narcotics Anonymous was like really hardcore, terrifying, like guys that had been in prison with like face tattoos who'd like were heroin addicts. And I would be like, well, I really liked crystal meth. Will you hold my $800 handbag? Like, hi, you know, like it didn't feel like my people. But Alcoholics Anonymous was also like I never drank enough that like, you know what I mean? So it was like, So I remember in a meeting, I said, I'm a crystal meth addict. And they were like, are you an alcoholic or not? Like, you have to identify as an alcoholic. Now, what I've come to learn is it's really all the same thing. I mean, after about a year clean, I tried drinking and I was in a blackout for 3 weeks. And I was like, okay, totally can't drink. Like, fucking got it.
Wow.
Got the message.
Yeah.
Like, a friend from college came out and stayed with me. And we were having fun. And she left in the middle of the night and left me like a 6-page letter telling me how much I bug out when I drink. And I don't recall anything.
Wow.
So then I didn't drink for like 6 years, 7 years.
Yeah.
Yes, I didn't. Who wants to go do AA? Nobody. So I was like, so I had an exorcism, and I saw a shaman, and I did fucking biofeedback, and I saw a neurologist, and I had acupuncture, and I went down to Tijuana and had like amino acids pumped into my fucking arm to rebalance my brain chemistry. I mean, I did every single thing. I've been on every single fucking psych med. You know what I mean? I did everything I could to not fucking do AA.
Wow. But I mean, that's like dedication. It seems like you were
like,
trying to get sober though. I mean, that sounds like.
I was. Well, I had to, because I was like really, I mean, the way I was like ending up in the ER and like fucking.
Yeah. I mean, you would not have probably been, you would not be alive today, would be my guess, is if you were still using the way you were, you know what I mean, before that book came out.
No.
Yeah.
That wasn't
I guess the next book, because the way it ends, I've compared it to.
So what I was saying is like, what I think that the recovery community kind of needs is like, hey, if you get sober, like, if your drug of, like if you can put down your drug of choice or moderate, great. Like, you're all welcome. Like, inclusivity, like, you know what I mean? Not just like, it's abstinence only. Like, that to me is super fundamentalist and weird and not inclusive and not helpful. There are people who don't need to get completely sober, you. There are people who don't want to get completely sober. And you know what I mean? And it's like, why can't they also be part of it? Now there's that whole sober curious movement, which has opened up things where people are like, well, this is interesting. You know what I mean? Like, maybe I just, there's a whole movement
of just people being curious about sobriety.
Yeah, so I'm sober curious.
Sober curious.
Sober curious.
I'm sorry, that sounds kind of.
I wrote well, for someone like myself who
it's like, if you're not sober, you die.
Yeah, that to me was like, a huge. I found it pretty offensive, to be honest with you.
I can imagine.
And, they're like, wear sparkly t-shirts, like spiritual gangster and sober sexy, and it was like, like, I just like, oh my God, my skin looks amazing. I'm like, I lost so much weight. I'm not hungover for my spin class. Like, I feel so great. Like, versus me who like stabs people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I'm like, oh, that's so awesome that it's a health trend for you. Or that you like take a dry January to clear your head. Some of us actually, it's like life or death. Like, I have an enlarged liver now, and you know what I mean? Like, an epilepsy. Like, it's not just.
You got lasting health problems for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a criminal record and all kinds of shit, so.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to discourage, like, I mean, I get sober curious. It sounds so silly, but if someone's got to use that to get to a place where they can be better off, you know what I mean? Like, if that's a stepping stone. I've
come around to it. It's a softer place to land. I mean, that wasn't offered to me.
Yeah.
It was AA, complete abstinence, or you fucking die. And this is a much softer place to land. And I have friends who can't drink, but they can smoke pot and they can do coke and they can do shrooms. They just like drinking for them is just like makes them weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
and I'm like, totally support that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, so and it's like, wherever it gets you there, great. Why does it have to be so, no one has to have the low bottom that I had.
And it's about kind of respecting other people in the sense that, like, if we're hanging out and, you can't drink, and even if you see alcohol, you're going to, and I can have a couple beers. I'm still not gonna if I'm with you. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah,
it's
but I don't expect that. I really am not bothered with people drinking around me.
I wouldn't say
I don't like people getting really shit-faced around me. Because that
But-
feels like
well-
you're on another level that I can't. And if you like brought out some Coke and cut some lines, I'd be like, bye. But I don't mind people like having 2 drinks around me. I'm
Sure,
not bothered
but
by,
again-
I'm the one with the problem. I'm the one with the problem. It's not your problem. If I'm diabetic, that doesn't mean you don't get to eat cake. Like, it's me that can't eat cake.
Right. I think my point was more, just knowing, like you said, it's different. Everyone's different. So like, if I know I'm with somebody who can't be around alcohol, I'm not gonna
Right.
suggest
Well,
that
that's
I
very
have a beer with
respectful. I
dinner or
mean,
whatever. You know, I just feel like if we could do that a little bit, because it's not like I can't go home and have a beer at home or when I'm away from this
Right.
person or whatever. And
Well, I
that
think
and that
for
way
people in
there
early
doesn't have to be
sobriety,
any.
that's really important. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
for
yeah.
you know, for sometimes it can be really triggering to smell it or whatever, you know, and see it, and so
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the person, I think.
And it all has to be something that you want.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, how many times did you go to a rehab when you were like, I don't want to get fucking
Oh
clean.
God!
I don't want to get sober.
I went
don't
to
want...
7 rehabs. So how many times do you think my parents were like, "Hi, bitch, go to rehab"? You know?
Yeah. And you're in there
No,
going,
I
nah,
mean,
this is
yeah,
ridiculous.
that
So
time-
until you
Of
were
course.
like,
I knew I needed
can't live
to,
like
but
this.
knowing you need to versus knowing you want to, like the time when I was drinking and doing a lot of coke, and I went into Promises where I fucked that movie star, right, in the book. Buy the book, My Fair Junkie. We're shopping it as a TV series.
Ooh. I was going to ask you if there was anything
Yeah.
more coming with that besides another
It's
book,
really,
but yeah, okay.
it's really
That's great.
exciting. And I
That's
think
awesome.
that people need to see an accurate representation of women in addiction, and not like intervention, which is kind of exploitive and sort of triggering. And
Thank you.
And I like
yeah.
Euphoria, but it's not funny. And again, we are funny people because we think it's funny. Like, I think it's hilarious that I shot coke wearing a bike helmet. I think it's genius. Once I had that one seizure, I was like, well, fucking okay. Like, this shit is like high impact sport. Wear protective gear. You know, people are just like, and I think that, you know, Euphoria is great, but she's 16 fucking years old. Like, it's a whole different thing when you're in your 40s. Like, I lost my whole life. I just started over in my 40s. You know what I mean? It's like you have, it's a much different experience when you've had 25 years of fucking addiction and fucking mental illness, you know? And I think it can be funny.
Yeah.
And Mom is funny, but it's not dark. So I think it can be darkly comedic. I think there's a place for this because people really responded to the book. They were just like, oh, because it's so honest.
And now more than ever, authenticity is something that people
I'm finally at the
crave.
right place at the right
So-
time. It only took fucking a zillion years.
But don't you like you are in the right place at the right time, and all that other shit that happened put you.
I know. That's
right
why
here.
I'm not.
You know what I mean?
I'm
So
not
it's like,
ashamed of it, and I'm not bummed about it. I'm totally grateful.
Yeah.
Like now I get it. I'm like, oh, I get all that stuff should have had to happen, so I could write this book, so I could fucking help people, so I could be here, and so I could. Oh, okay. You know what I mean?
yes, yeah, because you said that book helped a lot of people, and
it's really. Yeah.
I see stuff online, people responding to you
I don't
about
even
that
post
book
all the
because
stuff. I get notes every day still. I mean, it's really blown up during the pandemic, and they just want to be like, I want to just say, I cry. I read the notes and I cry, and they're just like, I just want to say, thank you. Like,
yeah,
thank you for not making me feel fucking alone and like a freak. Like, thank you for really telling. I'm gonna cry. Like, for telling the truth. They're just like, and I just felt like you know, I never gave a fuck about helping people before. And now that's
you
all
couldn't. All you cared about was
now
yourself.
That's all I care about. That's all I fucking care about. My whole fucking world is how do I fucking help people?
And it's like a different, more positive addiction
Totally.
because the feeling you get when you're helping somebody and you're doing something worthwhile is very
course.
fulfilling, and it feels good. So you
Of
want to do
course.
more of that to feel that. So it becomes like the same thing you were doing to fill that hole. You're filling it with
Yeah.
this other stuff, and it's And it really is, you have to want to. And then once you start doing the thing where you become service to other people and you can help other people and you can do things for other people, that becomes who you are. And and it also connects you to everyone else, because we're all
that's
fucking
what's
same.
been the mind-blowing piece about all of this, is just like the universality and the connection of it. And I'm like, where I put down my innermost, darkest shit, my deepest secrets, and everyone's like, oh my God, me too. And I was like, you're not alone. You're not alone. We're all the same. It's all feelings. Like, that's the whole thing. It's like, a lot of people like the book too, because it's about feelings. It's about, fear and self-love and hatred and wanting to check out and growing up and sex and fucking all kinds of different stuff. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, everyone identified with the feelings. The person who wrote the pilot is not a drug addict. They're a completely normal person. They're a
TV writer, so I don't know how normal that is. But
I mean, whenever I do like the most embarrassing, whenever I tweet or post the most embarrassing personal thing, everyone was like, oh my God, I so needed that. Me too. It's like, and that's the fucking, It takes
someone like you who's willing to say those things out loud in order for, like, that's what comedy is. When you go up on stage, you're telling jokes. It's like, I say things, I laugh. People are like, oh, fuck, you said that on stage? It's like, yeah, everyone else related to it. And nobody else would have the balls to come up here and say it.
Thank God. I am thankful for the 5 years I did stand up, because first of all, it's made me like fucking great in pitch rooms. You know what I mean? Like, I like turn it on and fucking
unafraid of the crowd, for sure.
Definitely entertaining at meetings, and people are like, holy shit, you're really funny. You should be a comic. I'm like, oh God. Not very many addiction memoirs are funny. I'm like one of the funny addiction memoirs, and which I think is really key to not feeling shame, I think, is laughing at something to get past it and be okay with it. And I think people can sort of swallow it more if you make it laugh. But like you said, what's funny is what's true. So it's like, say the thing that everyone's thinking that no one dares say. Say it. Write it.
Yeah, or the thing that they've done that they're like, God, I wouldn't fucking tell anybody about that. When I went to Europe with two friends in the late 90s, right after college, I had an incident where I ended up taking a shit in an alley and I lost my pants, and I walked around Germany with my dick hanging out. Like, really, like, it was crazy. I could have ended up in prison, whatever. But the next day I found my campsite. It's online.
Like,
I did it for Comedy Central.
Story. Like, fucking everyone's had that.
It was for Comedy Central. This is not happening. It's online. You just if you Google Jon Huck loses his pants, you can see the whole thing. But the day after that story, or the day after that happened, my friend, I told him what happened, and he goes, "Oh, dude, I wouldn't tell anybody about that if I were you." And I looked at him and I went, "Are you fucking crazy? I'm gonna tell everyone." Because that's insane. Like, did you listen to what I just said? It's fucking crazy. I should be in prison. And he's like, you want me to keep that to myself? And that's when I realized, when I went back to where I went to college, I was visiting somebody, my friend Kevin sat down at the bar next to me. He goes, "Hey man, how was Europe?" And I go, "Dude, you want to hear something fucking nuts?" And by the time, that story takes about 20 minutes to tell in its entirety. And by the time I started telling him, just sitting at a bar, by the time I was done, I was standing like with my feet on the stool, like standing up. The entire bar was listening, and the dude next to me was just crying tears, laughing. And I'm like, oh, I bet I could do comedy. It was literally like, I'm like, keeping that shit to yourself, I think only increases the embarrassment and the shame. It just builds in there. It's like, get it out. Get it out.
Is like, like, secrets keep you sick and whatever. And it's like, well, secrets also make you feel alone. And it's like, shame was a big one that kept me relapsing over and over and over again. Just feeling so ashamed, like I couldn't get it and blah, blah. And it's like,
and then you get wasted, and then you feel bad about that. And then you feel
like, I really fucked up. I should stop. It never did that. Shame lowers your dopamine. which then of course your brain goes, oh my God, we need dopamine. But when you feel connected to other people, your dopamine goes up. And when you help people, your dopamine goes up. Like, I know all this creepy science now, but like, you know,
Hey.
I mean, I totally agree. And it's like I'll put the grossest, most embarrassing shit on Instagram or Twitter, and everyone is just like, oh,
they appreciate
totally.
it. It's appreciated.
They're
It's
like,
appreciated.
God,
Even
me
if
too.
it's
like, are you in my brain? Are you spying on me? And you're like, and people are like crying, laughing. And it's just like, and that's where the connection is, because fuck looking good, man. Like right now.
why? What's the point? Where is that what people want? Somebody, a model?
Yeah,
what are we
like,
looking for? Somebody who's perfect?
You know, that's not funny, and that's not where people connect. People connect in the vulnerable places.
Yeah, if you go on stage and talk about being rich and successful and how it's great, and I can, no one wants to fucking hear that. Sit down, dude. Go get some problems and come back in a couple minutes. Like, that's fucking terrible. You're rich. Get the fuck out of here. Right. Nobody wants to hear that. I've never seen a comic go on stage and do well with.
I'm just getting laid
being
so
famous
much
is great.
I can't even take it. You know?
So much pussy. I'm slapping it away.
People
like
think I'm a fucking model,
handballs.
you guys. It's like everyone's like, ew. You know, people want.
No.
Yeah, they want that vulnerability. They want to identify. They want to know that they're not alone, and they want to laugh. It's connection.
Authenticity.
You know? And so that's what I tried to do in the book. And you know, even if you were never a sex addict, you know, and did something horrible with a fucking dildo for a stranger, that was the hardest scene to write, to be honest. I was like, I do not want to write this scene. I don't want people to know this. I don't want to have lived it. I was just like, and I thought, you know what? First of all, Jerry Stahl said, you know, Jerry Stahl, who wrote Permanent Midnight. Right. He's a friend of mine. He blurred the book. And he was like, holy fuck. Oof. And I was like, oh shit. You know, it's not, you know, you're gnarly when like those kind of people are like,
dude, the guy who did heroin and ran 5 miles is like, ooh, your book is weird.
Fucking horrifying. You're like, oh shit. And he has a quote and it goes, if you had the nerve to live it, have the nerve. If you had the nerve to live it, have the nerve to write it. And I was like, okay, bitch. So
that's good
someone has done something sexually that they didn't want to do because they didn't want to say no, or they were too fucked up, or they thought the person would be mad, or they didn't want to seem like a prude, or someone's been in a situation where they did something where they were like, I don't really want to do this from like, it might not have been to that extent, but everyone knows that feeling.
The whole thing is relatable in that sense that like there's just stuff in our lives, everyone's got it, that's like, I really don't want anyone to know about that, or I hope that doesn't come out, or, you know.
There's so much freedom. I can't tell you. Like, right before it came out, I was
once
like,
you get it out there.
ugh. And then after, I was like, you're fucking bulletproof. Like, what are you going to tell me? Like, I had a fucking, you know what I mean?
It's the 8 Mile. You 8 Miled everybody. It's like, I've already told you everything I've done wrong. You can't fucking come at me with anything.
Freeing. It's like, you're like, I already wrote about it. I wrote an article about it. I wrote a book. What else you got, bitch?
Yeah. And then were you doing the podcast before the book, or did that come after the book?
I started the podcast. The book came out in 2017. Joe and I started the podcast during the pandemic.
Oh, that just started?
Like 6 or 7 months.
Oh, wow. How's that going?
I mean, we didn't realize how much work it would be. People have been like, you should do a podcast or do a podcast with me. And I was like, oh, no. And then Joe was just like, this is my fucking, resolution. Let's do it. And I was like, okay. And, because he's a social worker, it gives it like an interesting balance too. It's not just like, well, here's a junkie, and we, it's like, so, and he's really into the politics, drug policy and politics. And I like the science. We just had the guy from Cecil Hotel on, the Skid Row historian. That's going on Tuesday, dropping Tuesday. That's awesome. Is the nicest fucking person on the planet. So smart, so whatever. And I mean, I'm learning so much. We've had senators, we've had mayors, we've had athletes, we've had celebrities, we've had doctors. I mean, it's been really fascinating. And so he just said, let's start a podcast. And I was like, okay. And then it took us a while to figure out the sound. I mean, we're both in our fucking 50s. I mean, he sounded like he was in someone's fucking pussy for the first like 5 months. I was like, dude, your sound sucks. Like, he's like, I don't know. It's the
you got to get an
internet.
indie.
No, wherever you go, your sound sucks. It's you. There's one. It's you. It is a user error, and we finally figured it out and whatever. But
you got to get an indie. That's why I have
need
indie.
an indie. Oh yeah, we have
indie
no.
makes
one.
all the sound good.
We do have a sound guy, but I sent it to him afterwards,
Okay.
and it's a lot of work. It's like having a child.
Yeah, but at the same time, you're now able to, like with a book, you reach so many people, especially the way books
sold
are now,
6,000
Kindle and
fucking
Libby,
copies
and
since June. Yeah.
Since June? That's pretty
I finally
good.
earned out my advance, and that's what I have to say. Like, it's a long haul. I mean, I've been flogging that motherfucker.
Well, but also some writers never do that.
75% never do that.
Whoa, I didn't know it was that high.
I've been flogging that motherfucker since 2017. And I remember when I first started, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to be like, buy my book. It's so Garmento Jew, buy my thing, buy it, here, buy. It's so great, buy.
It's the same.
And I'm uncomfortable with that. I like to create the thing and then someone else sells it. That's why you have an agent. That's why you have a manager. Like, you do that. That's why you have a publicist.
Yeah.
Like, you do that stuff. That stuff makes me, right?
I just want to write.
It makes me very uncomfortable, and it's like kind of like, ooh, it feels icky. And my agent just said, it is the long game. It's the long haul. And after I had a big publicist for like 3 months that the publisher hired. And he said, and then it's all on you. And he said, and I go, but I feel uncomfortable doing it. And he goes, too fucking bad. Pretend it's someone else. And I went, he goes, most writers push their book for about 6 months and stop. And I was like, okay. And so I just kept doing it. And now I'm in a position where, like, I'm in a good position to get a second book deal. And, I don't know, it really blew up in the pandemic for some reason. I think people got Netflixed out.
Well,
and they were like, I gotta read, you know what I mean? And like,
well, also people were, I mean, if you had any kind of
This
addiction issues going into the pandemic, that is a really hard.
Everyone's day drinking, suicide's up 200%. Everyone's having nervous depression. Overdoses are higher than they've ever been. I mean, because we're in our houses, we're isolated. It's not good for us. And it's like, so, I mean, there's just been an explosion in, substance abuse and depression and suicide and whatever. And so I think that the book got, people were like, I got to read something. And like, I need, and something that's funny.
And
motivational
hopeful, in a sense. Like if you're struggling and you read about somebody who's struggling, and that person by the end of this book has gone through all this shit, gotten their shit together, seemingly, and it's like, okay, I can do something. I can take a step. I can move forward.
And not very many people are like, well, I was that fucked up. I mean, like, that story's fucked. You know what I mean?
No,
like, I've got some people where they're like, I read your book and I felt really relieved. And I was like, oh, that's so nice. They're like, because I am not as fucked up.
Because I was never.
I was like, I wasn't as bad as you. I mean, so I could definitely get sober. And I was like, whatever, dude. I don't give a shit. I don't care.
But if that's what it takes, then that's what it takes. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I do firmly believe that your quality of life improves when you're not craving or after something that's, you know what I mean? Like, if you're not always like drunk, or you're not always like trying to escape, you know what I mean? Like, life will open up for you if you can live in the present moment and focus on what's right there in front of you.
You don't fucking make dumb mistakes. And I mean, like, it just for me, there was no other option. It was like, if you don't do this, you're gonna fucking die. Like, harm reduction wouldn't have worked on me. Like, I couldn't do what you did. I tried many, many times. Could not, What really changed for me, the big epiphany I had, I think, that got me sober was not just losing everything, because lots of people keep going down. You can keep digging and keep fucking getting a lower bottom and a lower bottom and a lower bottom. I could have just like gotten with some drug dealer and become a prostitute and fucking made money and gotten, you know what I mean? Like, sure, I could, you know, I didn't have to get sober. But I remember sweeping the streets. I was like, and I thought, I had so many hours. I was like, fuck, right? So many hours. Oh,
like a
yeah.
record
People
amount of
rob
hours.
A bank? Like, what the fuck? Like people were I saw so many people come and go, and I was like, still there.
You always
Still
there.
here, guys. You know, it was like, and I remember sweeping the streets one day, and I was really mad. I was just like, you know, fuck my ex and fuck the police, and my lawyer sucked, and this isn't fair. And like you're sweeping like human feces. I mean, it's so like.
Oh yeah, the streets of Los Angeles are filthy. Everybody.
And syringes and just like it's just like, oh yeah, it's gnarly, right? And I remember, and I was like, you know, feeling really sorry for myself, and I was like, and then I had this fucking moment, and I went, what if this is the best thing that ever happened to you? What if this is the best thing that ever happened to you, dressed up as the worst thing that ever happened? What if this is the crossroads you've been needing? Are there lessons here? Like, what if we embraced this? Like, what are the lessons that you could learn here? And I was like, well, I don't know. This is me talking to myself. I'm like, well, humility, and I can learn how to sweep, and you know, I could learn how to do part of a team, and compassion, and I can finish what I start, and blah, you know, on all this kind of stuff. And then I was like, so I thought, okay, let's fucking embrace what we have in front of us. Because if you don't make this fun, you're not going to fucking get through it. Also, like I had hours.
Wow.
And I couldn't do 2 days in a row because I was so fucking old and tired and weak. You know what I mean? I was like, I couldn't. I was like, I'd be in bed the next day, like all day. And I was like, you better fucking make this fucking doable for yourself. So you better find fucking a reason to fucking like enjoy it and finish it, bitch. And I thought, and I just was like, this could be the best thing that ever happened to you. And then I found that Will Rogers quote, which is the opening of the book, which is the worst thing that happens to you can be the best thing for you if you don't let it get the best of you. And I was just like, okay. And I had no idea I was going to write a book at all.
But what brought that? Like, why was it that moment that you were like, are there lessons?
I have
like,
no idea.
why, instead of going, this is something I can get through so that I can fucking get high sometimes, get this fucking shit behind me. But you were like, I'm going to take this thing that's now in front of me and use this. Like,
yeah,
it was just
my
your
God,
time.
Dad's like, it's God. And I'm like, okay. Like, he's like, what created that epiphany? Like, why? And I said, I have no idea. It just came to me. And I was just like, I mean, I remember really thinking, like, I just had to reframe it for myself. And then I was like, and so then I started posting about it on Facebook. I don't know if you saw the posts. Oh God, they were hilarious. And I would be like, another day on the chain gang. Like, here's what I found today. Like, here's what I learned. And I would do pictures.
Oh,
people were dying.
I saw
Everyone
some of
rallied
those
behind me, and everyone was just like, oh my fucking God. Like, these are so amazing. And then when I finished, they were like, get arrested again. That was amazing. And I was like, and that's when
Fuck
the people
off.
that they loved it so much, I was like, I mean, I was talking to my editor at the magazine that I was writing for, and I was like, I don't know, like, I want to write a book, but I don't know what, like, you know, blah. He goes, the chain gang's the spine of the book, dumb shit. And I was like, oh my God. So I had no idea I was going to write a book
such a
when
great
I was
part.
sweeping the streets, or that it was going to take me to where it took me. Do you know what I mean? Or transform me and I'd get 8 years. I had no idea. All I knew was like, okay, I'm at the bottom of the fucking barrel here. I'm in sober living for 2.5 years. I'm on Medi-Cal. You know what I mean? I'm babysitting for $10 an hour. Like, I used to be in some high-rise condo, married to some rich guy with fucking antique jewelry and furs, and just like doing dick jokes for free because I could, you know? And now I'm here. And I was like, how can I make this okay? And I mean, I literally got to a place where I like actually found it sort of enjoyable and meditative. I mean, there's something very meditative when you're very cerebral. and you're in your head a lot, which can be a very bad place if you're depressive or an addict, you know, because you can really like spin yourself out into some weird dark shit. Yeah.
Because thinking is the worst addiction
you're like
known to
start
mankind.
fucking tripping about shit and like future tripping and like this person thinks this and I'm this, and you just start fucking going down some rabbit hole. And so when you're just sweeping, I was like, well, maybe this like it's like a moving meditation, Amy. Like, why don't you just focus on sweeping and just like you're in your body. And I've never been in my body. I'm not a dancer. I fall down a lot. I'm not coordinated. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a Jew. Like, I'm a cerebral Jew. So I'm not in my body. And this was a chance to really be just in the present in my body. And it really was grounding. And so, I mean, and there's a scene in the book where literally I'm happy. Like, I'm like, look at what a beautiful day it is. And it was like, I'm like singing like Steve Winwood, like the final things keep shining through, you know, and people are like, whoa. The bad moment
That's awesome,
was
though.
running into the guy that I'd fucked from AA.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there were a couple awkward moments like that. I mean,
yeah, that was uncomfortable. That was uncomfortable.
Because did he not know you were sweeping right away? He was like, hey, what are you doing? Or was he like, hey, what are you doing?
He actually didn't see me. He didn't
okay,
see me,
okay.
But I saw him. And like the cloak of shame that came over me. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, how long did that last compared to had you been ashamed, gone and got
Of
fucked
course.
up, then you know what I mean? Then
that's
that
why there's
it
that
just
joke
fucking,
where I should have, you know, really just been like, how sorry you that you got off this ride, you know, but it was like, you know, I just tried to steal my ex and got out of psych ward. Look, I've been cutting on myself and like, you know, I'm a newcomer again. It's 8 years later and you could have had all this, you know, it's like, but look, I can sweep now, you know, it's like, you know, fucking like, oh.
I can sweep now. I've learned some basic homemaking skills.
Be a great housewife for you. But I was like, you know, I really thought to myself, like, God, if you stopped fucking up and self-sabotaging and getting in your own way, where could you be? It's 8 years later, Amy. Where the fuck could you be? What would your life be like if you didn't fucking burn it all down every 3 seconds?
And you got your answer. Sitting in between book deals.
Shopping.
That's awesome. I mean, a lot of people don't.
No,
yeah,
but
I
that's
mean,
also like,
is it
like, you know, that's also like winning the lottery, all of that, you know, it's like,
sure. But you're talking about it not being, you're talking about a scripted series, correct? Right. You're not talking about like a reality.
Like, it looks promising, but it had been optioned before and then it fucking went to shit. And, you know, it's Hollywood.
You know this town. I mean, your dad's a screenwriter.
Yeah, I mean, I already know this, you know, you can get caught in development hell and whatever. And so it's like, you know, I mean, who knows what's going to happen, but I'm just trying to, I get very excited about stuff, which is a problem, you know?
Got to try to kind of even out that temperament
like, you know,
a little bit.
Like someone's like, oh, they love it. And I'm like, a Tesla and a mansion
Where
in Hollywood. And, you know, they, you know, fucking some movie star and do and I get a little fucking jowl lift and I'm going to be like, ooh, look 30 again. Like, you know.
You're spending that money before the check is written.
You know, and it's like, hey, slow your roll, dude. Slow your roll.
That is promising, though. And then you just started working on the new book, or that's
I wrote
just
the first
started
chapter, my agent, and I wrote most of the proposal, which is like the most horrible part of the whole thing. And so my agent.
Is that like what like a kind of a summary?
Everyone thinks you write the whole book and then you sell it. That's not how it works. No one's gonna read the whole book. No fucking publisher is gonna read a whole fucking book. No editor is gonna read a whole fucking book. Not even an agent. You know. So you write a sample. For the first book, I wrote like 120 pages because a lot of it was based sort of on the style of my book. And I didn't have much of a platform. I have a more platform now. They want you to have a platform. Like publishers give a fuck about your Instagram account. It's so gross. I mean,
it's like comedy now. It's like acting. It's like you go into a fucking pitch meeting and they're like, how many people look at you online? It's like, I don't know. Put me on TV so more people look at me.
Right. It's like, right. It's
frustrating.
You know, forget talent.
That's the last thing they worry about. It's like, now finally, can you act? What? That's the last question you're asking?
Yeah, it's so gross. And it's like, So I think so. I just so you write like a sample of it, and then you do a proposal. And a proposal is a full outline of the entire book.
Okay.
It is why you're writing the book, why it's important, who you are, testimonials, a comparative analysis to books like yours that have done well, and why yours is different and better. Like it's a full sales pitch. It's really
Jesus. That would be discouraging for someone like me. I wouldn't want to write all that. I would want to just write the book.
It's harder than writing the book. And again, it's that weird, uncomfortable space of selling yourself, which is something that most artists don't like to do if they don't like that.
No.
But it's like it's
uncomfortable.
very uncomfortable. So you have to do that, and it's really, really, a proposal's horrible. But that's what they're like, is this book gonna fucking sell? What's your platform?
Because all they care about is money.
Your platform too. They want to know your platform. How many followers you have? How many clicks do you get on your articles? How many da-da-da? And now I've got, and so it's like a whole thing. It's like my business partner doesn't care. He's like, I don't care about popularity. I don't care if people don't like me. And I'm like, but you know what? That's how we get fucking sponsors for the podcast. And that's how I sell a book. And that's how, you do. Because popularity equals fucking money. And I don't want to be broke for the rest of my goddamn life.
Yeah. What do you have a title for the second book yet?
No. My dad gave me some horrible ones, but I did, which I didn't even pass on to my agent. I was just like, I can't. Those are just terrible puns. I was like, oh, so bad.
Oh,
terrible puns. And then I had an idea, and he was like, no. So that was the other thing. No, it can't be a sequel. It has to stand alone.
Oh,
He goes, you're famous in the recovery world, but you were on the New York Times bestseller list. You're not fucking James Patterson, bitch. Like, no. So he goes, so it has to stand alone. He goes, so I'm going to make a rule for you for the proposal and for the book. And I go, okay, what's that? And he goes, you can't mention My Fair Junkie.
Ooh.
I go, what is this, Fight Club? Like, what the fuck are you talking? Like, what the fuck are you talking?
Rule 1, never mention the book you wrote.
So it has to be a sequel for people who read the first book and completely standalone for people who haven't.
Okay, that presents its own set of challenges.
The whole thing, which was going to be like how people have you on a pedestal and think you have your shit together and your whole life's crumbling, and like what the social media world looks like versus what your life really looks like. And then I had to pull all of that, and now I'm just going to talk about sort of like that you don't arrive in sobriety. Everyone's like, I do get sober, and then it's like perfect. It's like, And so I want to talk about how, like I've told you, just the wreckage of your past, just not knowing, how to fucking live, having a criminal background. There's still a lot of prejudice from the medical profession. You know what I mean? That's been fun. That's something I want to talk about. Prejudice from other people, especially being an IV drug user. People are like, whoa. Yeah, it's a
hardcore.
whole other level than just being like, I drank too many Zimas, and then I went to Le Cirque. You know what I mean? Like it's different.
Yeah. I was on 5 Bartles and James's. It's different. It is different. And again, I'm not belittling someone else's issues, but yes, the difference
is.
Like
I said, booze made me more crazy than drugs ever did.
Right.
But people get really weird about that.
There's definitely a stigma.
Totally
it's not socially accepted.
You can't show up at a party with like a fucking 6-pack and.
Hey guys, I brought the needles.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Like, the needle guy is here. Yay.
In the book, I talked about when that one guy was like, oh. And I was like, whatever, bitch. Like, this is what I'm doing now. So, like, either you're with it or you're not. You want to fuck or not? Like, because if not, I'm going to fucking roll and shit. And he was like, no, it's okay. But it was like, it is a whole other level. It's really dark. It gets really dark. But, I used to do a bit about it. which was like, it's really about efficiency. Like, if you had to go to Uruguay, would you take a rickshaw or a rocket? Like, let's get to where the fuck we're going.
Yeah.
Let's go. That's really it. It's really it.
Yeah.
And once you've kind of like shot drugs, like snorting drugs, you don't go back. It's like once you've had like Tesla, you're not like, give me that Prius. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no. You passed that point of return. It's like, it's sobriety or death at this point now, everybody.
Yeah. So.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today, to me, I should say. And I guess people, the podcast, is it weekly?
Yeah, it drops on Tuesday.
Rehab Confidential? Every Tuesday. So check out Rehab Confidential. And you can get My Fair Junkie is on Kindle. It's on you can get it on the Libby app. It's on Audible.
Yeah, it's on Audible.
Oh, you read your own, you read the book. That's cool. That's cool. Because I don't know, I think if the author can do it, I think they should.
They don't usually let you, but because I'd had a performance background, they let me, and they were like, I don't know who else could tell this fucking story. Do you know what I mean? And so I was really happy they let me, but that was a whole other experience where you're in this glass booth for 5 hours a day, just like, and if you fuck up a little bit, you've got to redo it. You're like, yeah, it was, but I'm happy I did it because people are like, I felt like you were right there, like my friend, and reading to me. And so I was really happy that I got the opportunity to read it. And it's in paperback, it's in hardcover. I mean, it's everywhere. You know, you can buy it used, but that doesn't really help me. But so definitely new is better. But it's on Amazon. It might be at Barnes and Noble. It's been out for a while now.
Yeah, but it's very good. It's well written. Like I said, I equate it to. I laughed. Oh yeah, there was definitely, but also at the same time, it's like because I kind of felt like it was funny, and then it was like, oh, that's sad. You know what I mean? It was like, it was a laughter, and then it was like, oh, fuck. But like, because I know you're still alive, and I know, I didn't know how the book ended, but I knew that it didn't end with your funeral. So I was like,
I was sober or what the deal was, right? You were like, she could be in prison writing this. Who knows? Like, I know someone Instagrammed me, and they were like, I'm reading your book right now, and I want you to come on my show. And I was like, oh, cool. I'm glad. I hope you enjoy it. And they're like, I can't believe you're still alive. And I'm like, well, here I am. And they're like, I know that I'm writing to you, but I still can't believe you're alive. Like,
I mean, a lot of people have
I'm very lucky.
Not survived less.
I am aware of that. And I'm very, again, I don't take that lightly. And I feel like, I'm very, I don't want to say blessed or grateful because it's so like fucking like sobering and whatever.
Grateful's
like,
okay.
I feel very lucky to be here and definitely want to make a contribution and help other people.
Yeah, which is again being of service.
But if
helping.
It wasn't funny, you would have wanted to just like hang yourself from your shower spigot. Like,
yes.
It's too dark. I knew that it had to have comedy because it's just like, otherwise you're just like, oh God, this is so sad.
You were correct with that. That was the infusion of humor, but also that's how your brain works. Like you look at that stuff and you find the comedy in it. That's who you are.
I was in the psych ward. I did say those things. That's all true. It's not. I didn't James Frey it at all.
Oh, man, and now that's a poor guy. That's a phrase. I didn't James Frey this book.
I know him. Okay, I like him. I think he's very talented. And you get pushed around by publishers. That's the story I heard anyway.
Yeah, no, saying it that way made more sense to me because I was writing a memoir.
They're gonna fucking dig it up. Of course they are. And the publishers should have but the publishers wanted to sell it. They know what's gonna sell. A novel's not gonna sell. A memoir that's that gnarly, because people love
from a problemed human.
They love that shit.
Makes them feel good.
They're like, I'm better than that.
Yeah.
I'm here in my cozy bed drinking my cocoa. Wow, that's terrible. What a degenerate. I don't know what that voice is. I have no idea what that weird voice is.
You drop into old Southern man quite a bit.
Weird
it's
and
interesting.
I don't know what it is. I'm not sure.
Well, thank you so much. We'll put up links of where people can find the book when we post the show, and links to your podcast.
And I need Instagram followers, y'all, because I need platform.
Okay. We'll put up links to your Instagram, guys. Follow Amy, give her a platform so she can get that second book out. And if you haven't read the first one, check it out as soon as you can, because it is definitely worth your time. And if you have suffering from addiction or any kind of problems like that, we'll put up links to 800 numbers and programs that are out there for people. And do not be afraid to ask for help.
You can get better. We do recover. We fucking do recover.
People are resilient. Gotta give it time.
You know, that's the line, you know, when I got 3 years again for the fourth time. And I said to my dad, are you ashamed of me? When you talk to your friends, are you embarrassed your kid's been in 7 rehabs and tried to kill themselves and mentally ill? And my dad said, my friends wish they had a kid as unbreakable as you.
That's nice.
Like, you know, we're fucking unbreakable. You know, don't give up. That's my note. Just fucking don't give up, you know?
That's great.
Don't be ashamed. Fuck it.
It's a good note.
It's funny. Fucking, you know, it's like Bill Burr.
Fuck shame.
He's like, fucking nice people are nice, but they have bad stories. They have boring stories, you know? It's like, yeah, you get great stories. We have great stories. We're fucked up, but we have great stories.
Love it. Thank you so much, Amy. Really appreciate it.